We talk about the internet like it's this magical cloud, right? Something that just exists, weightless, intangible. But what if I told you that our digital world has a very real, very physical weight? And honestly, it's surprisingly heavy. So let's dig in and find out just how heavy it is.
I know, it sounds like a trick question, doesn't it? But it's a totally serious one. Now, when I say weigh, I'm not talking about the actual servers and cables themselves. I'm talking about the energy it takes to keep this whole thing running 24/7. And that energy, well, it has a real, measurable footprint.
Just think about your day so far. I mean, from the moment you woke up, that video you watched on your commute, the dozens of emails you've already sent, even just searching for the weather. Every single one of those clicks consumes a little bit of energy. And when you add it all up, it becomes something absolutely massive.
Okay, so how do we even begin to measure this hidden cost? Well, it all comes down to a concept called our digital carbon footprint. And this, right here, is the key to understanding the real environmental impact of our online lives.
It's actually a pretty simple idea when you break it down. Every single bit of data, I'm talking everything from a quick text message to a full-on 4K movie, it all needs electricity. Electricity to create it, to send it across the world, and to display it on your screen. So the digital carbon footprint, that's just the grand total of all the greenhouse gas emissions created by all that electricity.
So, what does that actually add up to? You ready for this? Globally, the internet and everything that supports it. We're talking about roughly 1.6 billion tons of greenhouse gas emissions every single year. Yeah, just let that number sink in for a second.
Okay, to put that huge number into perspective, let's compare it to something we all know has a big footprint: the airline industry. The entire global aviation industry pumps out about 1 billion tons of CO2 a year. Our digital world, 1.6 billion tons. That's right. Our collective streaming, searching, and scrolling has a bigger carbon footprint than every single flight taken on the planet in a year. That's wild.
So the big question is, where is all this energy actually being used? It's not just coming from one place, of course. You can really break the internet's energy footprint down into three main pillars.
And what's really interesting is that the footprint is split pretty evenly between these three areas. You've got the giant data centers that store all our stuff. Then there are the networks that move that data around. And finally, there are the end-user devices we're all holding. Each one is responsible for about a third of the problem.
Let's kind of trace the path, right? So on one end, you have these massive, power-hungry buildings, the data centers, basically giant warehouses packed with servers that are running 24/7. On the other end, you have us, with our phones, our laptops, our smart TVs, and connecting them, that's the network. All the cables, cell towers, and routers that shuttle data around the globe. And all three of these parts are just constantly consuming enormous amounts of electricity.
All right, so I know that sounds like a huge, overwhelming problem. But here's the good news. There are actually some really simple, tangible things we can all do to lighten our digital load. And look, this isn't about giving up the internet. Not at all. It's just about being a little more mindful about how we use it.
So let's start with a few easy wins. First up, streaming. It's one of the most data-heavy things we do online. But just switching from HD to standard definition when you don't really need it can slash its emissions by a crazy amount, like up to 80%. Another big one, whenever you have the choice, use Wi-Fi instead of your mobile data. It's way, way more energy efficient. And, of course, the classic tip for a reason, actually unplug your chargers and devices when you're not using them. That little standby light, it adds up.
But it's not just on us as the consumers. The people who actually create the content we watch and use have a huge part to play too. In fact, this whole idea of mindful digital creation is a huge part of what we're talking about today. So what can the creators do to help lighten the load?
Well, for creators, it's really all about efficiency. Things like compressing video and image files so they're smaller, which means less data needs to be transferred, or designing websites with dark mode in mind, which can actually save a good bit of energy on newer screens. And a really big one is choosing a web hosting provider that runs on renewable energy. That's a super powerful step that cuts a site's footprint right from the source.
And really, that's the core takeaway here. At the end of the day, one person choosing standard definition over HD might feel like a tiny drop in the ocean. I get it. But the thing is, when millions and millions of us start making these small conscious choices, the collective impact, the energy savings, are absolutely enormous. Your digital habits really do matter.
So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. As more and more of our world goes digital,
who's really responsible for its footprint? Is it on us as the users to change our habits? Should the big tech giants be doing more to build a cleaner, more efficient internet? Or is it a shared weight, something we all have to carry together? Something to think about.